or you can put it in chat. If somebody will just indicate that they can.
We can see your screen.
Thank you very much. Okay. I'm Dr. Phillips. This is A&P 1, Monday, Wednesday afternoon. The reason it's afternoon is because I have an A&P 1 Monday, Wednesday morning. Okay. So in your subject line, when you put, when you're sending me an email, in the subject line, put BSC2085C Monday, Wednesday afternoon, so I'll know which class that you're talking about, and so I can get right to the matter, okay? So that's the reason for the subject line. I'm teaching 3 classes, 2 Anatomy and Physiology 1, and 1 Anatomy and Physiology 2. So you could help me out a whole lot if in the subject line you put Anatomy and BSC2085C Monday, Wednesday afternoon. I'll know exactly what class you're in. You don't have to put the course number, just put Monday, Wednesday afternoon. That's all I need to know, okay? Emails should be sent to me by way of the school mail, preferably Outlook, but also Canvas is okay. Do use the subject line. Don't send me emails from your outside email, okay? You and I both need to document conversations that we have. This is a public institution, okay? So that's the reason for the email. My direct boss, Dr. Sterling, who is the chair of the biological sciences, she said to use the school email. She's the one that hires me and pays my salary, so I'm imparting that wisdom to you. This is Canvas here, okay? This is Canvas. That's my picture. I don't know why that's up there, but I'm coming to you from St. Johns County. This is what our Canvas shell looks like. We're just going to go down the row here and then look at individual things. These are announcements. They are a bunch initially, okay? Don't worry, there's not going to be that many, but this is how I communicate with the entire class. If you have an individual problem, you email me. If that problem appears to be class-wide, then I will send out an announcement. If the schedule changes, I'll send out an announcement. If I change the due date, I'll send out an announcement. But this is a whole bunch of announcements that go out, okay? And so there'll be a few other things that we put up there, but these are the announcements. This is the syllabus. This is modules. Home and modules are the same thing, okay? This is assignments. This is discussion, okay? In discussion, there's Cyber Cafe. That is, if you choose, you can communicate with one another, okay? That is student-based. I do not monitor it. I might go in and look. Do not ask me questions there because that's not the place to ask me questions, okay? But if you want to get some information from another student, then feel free to do it. Confine your, obviously, to school discussion, this particular class. You don't have to use it. You can use another app. I know some last class, everybody got up on another app and used that. It doesn't really matter to me. It's whatever you want to do, okay? This here is introduction. Introduction is how you introduce yourself to the class, okay? In every one of my online classes, I took a bunch of computer classes here at school. We did an introduction, usually for no credit. You get 2 extra credit points for doing an introduction. Couple of paragraphs. First paragraph is about you. What's your name? What do you like to be called? What's your activities? Do you have kids? Are you going back to school? Something like that. Just some general information about you. You do not have to do this, okay? I don't want to invade anybody's privacy. Like I say, on all my classes, we did this, but you do not have to do this, okay? You won't get the 2 points extra credit, but that's up to you. Second paragraph is, hey, I'm going to FSCJ, I'm pre-healthcare, I want to go into nursing, I want to go in physical therapy, I'm pre-med, pre-dentistry, pre-whatever. What that does is identify other people in this class that have the same goals as you, okay? What it does is identify other people in this class that have the same goals as you. The beneficial thing in that is a network, okay? a network. You will get your first job based on your degree. You will get every job after that based on your network. Let me assure you, that's how I got to be a teacher at FSCJ. I met a guy, Ken, who was a high school physics teacher. I was teaching high school physics after I retired from being a physician and played golf for 10 years and got bored. I was teaching high school physics. I met him at a conference. He taught here as an adjunct, okay? Hey, I said, Ken, hey, I'd like to teach there. He went to the dean. The dean said, hey, yeah, we need anatomy and physiology. Send your resume. And that was it. As opposed to if I would have sent my application in, who knows if I got a job. So network is the key. Plus, if there's 4 or 5 of you that want to go into nursing at UNF, at FSCJ, at JU, you can combine notes and stuff like that. You may have information that they don't have, and they may have information that you don't have, okay? So it's advantageous to you to know your classmates. And since we don't have a face-to-face class where you normally would get to know people, you'd know your lab mates, you'd be 4 people at the table, you might know other people. We don't have that. This is a way of you learning about the other people in the class. There may be other people in class that like to do hot yoga, okay? Or like to do, go for long distance bicycling and things like that. It's just a way of introducing yourself. And like I say, it is totally optional. If you do it by the end of September, you get 2 points extra credit. If you do it after that, good for you. You don't get any extra credit. We've sort of lost the value of it, okay? So 2 points extra credit if you do the introduction. You don't have to do the introduction. It's due by the end of September. One other assignment, okay? And so we have collaboration. I don't use collaboration, I use Zoom, Office 365. If you don't have it, you can download it from the school. The other thing is the student contract, okay? The student contract, oh, I know where it is. Let's look at the start of course documents, okay? Modules, the first module is always the start of course documents. If you take any of my classes, I got campus security that just held over from the other. Lab safety requirements we're not going to do. Labs are going to do online. Student contract right here. Every class I've ever attended, we've done student contract, okay? This is a Word document. Let me also tell you that if you use a Mac, okay, if you use a Mac, I only accept Word, PDF, and text files. That's the only thing my computer will open up. I do not follow chat, okay? So if you're chatting, I'll have to look later on to see if there's any questions. If you want to ask the question, you can press your space bar and hold it down and ask the question. Your student contract says that you have read the material here, you understand the material, and you've had an opportunity to ask questions. That's all it says. You then go down here, you can type your name, or if you have an and then put parentheses electronic signature, date it, and put the course, BSC2085C, Monday, Wednesday afternoon, fall 2020, okay? There you've done it. You then go to assignments and you then save the file, okay? And I have a thing that tells you how to upload files. You then upload the file under assignments. Everything that you're going to turn into me will be uploaded under assignments. You then upload it under assignments. You have that. I need to have that by a week from Wednesday. So Wednesday is September 2nd. So I need to have that by September 9th. That is 1 point of extra credit, okay? I have to have it to give you a grade, okay? I have to have it to give you a grade. You can either do it by September 9th and get 1 point of extra credit, or you can do it later on in the semester so that you can get your grades posted, one or the other, okay? But if I were you, I would do it by September 9th. Number one, it keeps me from not knowing if you're participating in class. That's the first big thing that helps me know that you're participating in class. Already people from the morning class. I've already signed it, uploaded it, and it's, it says I've got things to grade, okay? All I do is look, see if you signed it, dated it, put your class, and give you a point of extra credit, okay? So it's simple to do. That's due by September 9th. Remember, next Monday is a holiday. We do not have class. We do not have class next Monday. So those are the two things that are extra credit for right now, okay? So that's 3 points of extra credit, and that is a good thing. Okay, so home and modules are the same thing. Announcements we talked about. Let's look at the syllabus. We go back up here. I'll get it this way. Okay, first let's look at calendar of activities, okay? Calendar of activities. This is your guide as to what's going on in class, okay? The one under start of course documents is the one that's going to be the most up-to-date and relevant, okay? The one attached to the syllabus is relevant at the time that the class starts. It's relevant at the time that the class starts. Notice that it can change, okay? We could have a hurricane. There's 3 things out and in the Atlantic right now. It doesn't look like any of them are, heading in our direction, but they could, okay? So we could have changes. Everything could, different things could happen. So there could be a revision to the syllabus. We're going to have a lecture today, chapter 1. We're going to do an overview of the course, okay? During the lab, we're just going to go straight through the class this morning. We went for about an hour, 15 minutes, hour and a half, and we were done with both the lecture and the lab, because all I'm going to do is talk about anatomical terms and show you the lab module. Lab modules are due 2 weeks after they are assigned. Lab modules are due 2 weeks after they are assigned. Lab modules are due 2 weeks after they are assigned. Pearson, okay, we have 3 things that will accumulate points for you. Well, number 1 are exams. We have 4 of them at 125 points each. That's 500 points. We have lab modules, okay? We have a number of lab modules, and I'll go through the lab modules in just a bit. We have a number of lab modules that will accumulate you 300 points. And then we have the Pearson assignments that will accumulate 200 points. Sometimes in our lab modules, we have to use Pearson because we use interactive labs. But Pearson assignments and lab modules are 2 separate things. I had a student last semester, 1 month before class was ready to get over, she said, I didn't know Pearson was a separate thing. I thought it was the lab module. She hadn't done any of the Pearson assignments for any of the chapters. Pearson assignments, I give these in modules. So our first test will have 4 chapters on it. Our first test will have 4 chapters on it. This is chapter 1 we're doing this week. Well, on Wednesday, we'll probably finish chapter 1 and start on chemistry. Next week, we don't have any class on Monday. Wednesday, we'll finish up in chemistry. And then we'll have a chemistry lab module, okay? But notice all these lab modules, all these Pearson assignments are due on 9/29, okay? Chapter 3, due 9/29. Chapter 4, due 9/29. Your exam, which is going to be online. For the first exam, I'm not going to use proctoring. I haven't used proctoring before, and I am not familiar with proctoring. So it's just going to be online exam. It's going to open up on Wednesday on this date. It's going to close on Tuesday on that date and that time. Be 2-hour exam. 9/29 is the day the exam closes. All your Pearson assignments are due at that point. For the first module, there's about 5, 4, 9, 13, 14, 15 assignments. Okay, 2 of them are introductions. 4 of them are chapter tests, which is familiar to the questions, okay? And then the others are dynamic study modules, which just walk you through the information. These are open the whole time. You can do them again and again and again till you get a perfect score if you want to. I learned that in one of my computer classes. From all the classes I took, I did not like having to have assignments done on a weekly basis, okay? Because that meant every Sunday because they were always due at midnight on Sunday. Every Sunday, I spent all day long working on assignments. So what I did, I put them up as a module. So you have 4 chapters worth of Pearson assignments that are already open. If you've signed into Pearson, you already see them. You can do them anytime you want to. Just don't wait till the last minute, okay? Because it's just too many of them to wait till the last minute. And if you wait till the last minute, if you turn them late, there's a 1% deduction a day up to 10%. So best you can get is 90%. Plus, if you wait to the last minute, you won't have the opportunity to keep taking them until you get a perfect score. So instead of getting a 15, you might get a 6.5 because you only had an opportunity to go through it once. And so that's the way I do with my assignments. All the lab modules are due 2 weeks from when they're assigned. All the Pearson assignments go together with the exam, and they are due at the time the exam closes. So you'll have from Wednesday to Tuesday to take the exams, the 2-hour exam. You only can take it once. Once you click start, it starts, okay? But so you want to make sure you're ready to take it, and that's how it goes. So this is the calendar of events. This is the most accurate thing for what's going on, okay? What will happen if I revise this, and if I have to do a major revision, I will put, number 1, I'll notify you. Number 2, I'll put a calendar of activities, you know, the usual thing. Here I just happen to put fall in the number, but calendar of activities. And then it'll say I had to revise it on October 1st. It will say revised October 1st. So you'll know that's the latest and greatest one, okay? Latest and greatest one. Here's the thing about how to upload assignments. Everything that you hand in to me will be uploaded onto the assignment page, okay? So if you've not done that before, you need to read that, go ahead and read that. And then if you still have problems, let me know. Here's our syllabus. We'll spend some time going over the syllabus here. A lot of the syllabus is boilerplate stuff. We have a syllabus builder. Email. Best to get a hold of me. I usually respond same day unless it's late. This is course information. 100% refund deadline 9/8. Withdrawal with a W 11/5. Class ends 12/15. Holidays. This is Labor Day. This is Veterans Day. This is Thanksgiving. You know, the times. As a general rule, we'll if the lab's a little bit more involved, we'll go for an hour and 15 minutes, take a 15-minute break and do the lab, because nothing's very involved today. The first chapter 1, NAR, the lab, we just go straight through. And like I said, it was an hour, 15 minutes, hour, 30 minutes this morning, and we were done with everything. Required textbook. If you have another textbook, which is Anatomy and Physiology Merib, that's fine. You can use that. The lab book we will use, okay? At the time we're going to have face-to-face meetings, and it was required. It is a good lab book. I will take pages out of the lab book for us to use. If you have it, that's good. If you don't have it, you don't need to purchase it. Technology requirements, course objectives, assignments for exams. You can miss one exam and retake it. I wouldn't want to retake an exam. Normally an exam is matching, multiple choice, true, false, and short answer. Matching, multiple choice, true, false, and short answer. If you miss an exam, it's all going to be short answer and essay. So you don't want to miss an exam unless you absolutely have to. There are no cumulative finals in this course. So first test is 1 through 4. Second test is 5, 6, 7, 8. Third test is 9, 10, 11, 12. And fourth test is 13, 14, 15, and 16. Okay. No cumulative final exam. Each one of the exams counts 125 points. You have from Wednesday to Tuesday to take Wednesday noon till Tuesday night at 11:55 to take the exam, so you can take it whenever you want to. Lab modules. Okay. online, there's a lot of labs that are going to be done. We'll look at the labs that are going to be done. The whole total is 300 points, which is 30% of your grade. Pearson assignments, these are assignments that are assigned on Pearson, okay? I'll show you the registration in a minute, all right? Pearson has a free 2-week sign up. If you're waiting on funds, if you're waiting on funds, go ahead and sign up. And if you know it's going to be a month away before you can get funds, go ahead and sign up for the 2 weeks and knock those Pearson assignments out of the way, okay, and get them done. So you don't have to worry that 2 weeks while you're still waiting for your money. This is calendar of activity, the student registration is there. We already have students from this class signed up, so I know it works, okay? If you have problems signing in, contact customer service. If you haven't bought your Mastering My Lab, you can buy it on there, okay? You can buy it on there. You can buy the ebook with it or without it, okay? This is calendar of activities. This one will not be updated in the syllabus. This is whatever the calendar of activities was today when the course started, okay? The updated one will be under Start a Course Documents. How the points break down. I grade on points. I don't grade on percentages. 125 points for each one of the exams. Lab modules are 300. Pearson assignments are 200. Last semester class of 22 people, probably, I want to say 15, 16, 17 got A's. And I think I had one person that just didn't show up, just quit coming. And then I had the rest B's and I had one C, rest B's and most A's. Majority of my classes have A's, okay? If you do the work, study for the exams, okay, you should make an A or B. And if you're in pre-healthcare, whatever you're trying to go into, you need an A or B to be able to get, the state school programs are very competitive because the tuition's so much lower. Nursing tuition at FSCJ is a whole lot lower than it is if you go to one of the private schools, okay? If you go to JU or somewhere. So you want to make an A or B, you need to make that as your priority, okay? Points for the grades. Here's how you're going to fail the class. Miss 5 live lectures for any reason, okay? Miss 5 live labs for any reason. Miss 2 exams for any reason. Fail to complete 50% of your laboratory modules. Fail to complete 50% of your Pearson assignments. And failure to check into Canvas at least once a week. I have there's activity logs on Pearson, activity logs on Canvas, and activity logs on Zoom. So if you signed in at 12 o'clock and signed out at 12:15, you weren't there, okay? You weren't there. Now, if you signed in and left the computer on and, went away, nobody knows that, okay? But if you come to the lecture but don't come to the lab part, okay. Initially, I was going to have 2 sign-ins, and I just decided that was too complicated. But if you don't come to the lab part, then you've attended the lecture, not attended the lab. The lab part's generally not going to last. It's not going to last the entire lab. I'm going to try to help you with the labs, show you what you need to do, especially in the interactive labs on Pearson. They might be a little bit complicated. I'm going to show you what you need to do, and we'll walk through it. We'll walk through the lab today, okay? So this is how you're going to fail the class, and nobody's going to do that, okay? Incomplete grade, you have to have at least 75% of your work completed and be passing, and it's at the discretion of the instructor. So if you've only completed 25% of your work, you're not eligible for an incomplete. Repeating the course, you really don't want to repeat the course unless you have to, okay? I know some people occasionally do it because of they need to get their grade higher. I do accept late work. Late work incurs a penalty. Now, makeup exams, that's okay. You don't incur a penalty. Lab modules that are late. Lab modules will do 11:55. You got a grace period 11:59. If you turn it in at 12:30, then it's late, okay? You've got 2 weeks to do it. Don't wait to the last minute. Some of them are pretty complicated. Some of them are not. But if you want to incur a 10% penalty if you've done it correctly. So, I mean, it's not that much of a penalty, but it is a penalty. Okay. 10%, that takes you to a barely an A. Okay. Now, granted, if it's 20 points, okay, and 90% of 20 points is 18, that's okay. But if you keep losing points, keep losing, and that's if you get a complete grade, if you do everything. Let me say on lab modules, if you leave questions blank, that's not good. If you try your best, that's good. Put an answer down. Think about the answer and put an answer down. Don't leave it blank. If you leave it blank, I can't give you any points. If you put an answer down and the question's worth 2 points, you might get 1, you might get 1.5, okay? But if you leave it blank, you can't get anything. So that's another reason not to wait to the last minute. I mean, you got the resources everywhere, kinds of resources to look for answers, okay? So the purpose of the laboratory assignments is to learn anatomy and physiology, okay? It's not an exact science. Everybody's answer is not going to be the same, but if you make a good faith effort, you'll get full credit, okay? If you make a good faith effort, you get full credit. It doesn't have to be exactly right, but just make the effort and do the assignments and turn them in on time, and you're going to get full credit. So if you get 300 points for labs and 200 points for the modules, and you've got 1 point extra credit for your student contract, 2 points extra credit for your introduction. There are going to be 5 points extra credit for your evaluations, and there'll be extra credit in other different places. You're going to do okay. Okay. Pearson assignments, they're Pearson assignments on the day it's due. From the day after that, there's a 1% deduction to a maximum of 10% deduction. Okay. So you get 90% of the grade if you turn them in late. So you can, theoretically, if you wanted to, wait till the end of the semester, and in the last week of the semester, you could knock out all your lab modules and you could knock out all your Pearson assignments. But let me assure you, you don't want to do that. Expectation of student contact, keep up with the material. If you have a problem, if you're sick, they changed your work hours, something's going on in your life, send me an email. Let me know, okay? My goal is your goal is for every one of you in this class to get an A or B. If you're not in here to get an A or B, you're probably in the wrong class, okay? Because that's my goal, for you to get an A or B so that you can move on in your healthcare, if you're pre-healthcare in your healthcare career. I've done everything in healthcare. I was an orderly. I worked in the lab. I was an OR tech. I was a physician for a number of years. I'm a retired plastic surgeon. Been retired for a number of years. I taught, after playing golf, I taught high school for a while, and then I've been teaching here. This is my 5th year I've been teaching here, and I enjoy it. I enjoy face-to-face classes, but we got to do what we got to do, okay? Attendance, you got to be here. These are other resources for you. You can look at them. Just keep me informed if something's going on. Keep me informed if something's going on. And here is your Pearson registration. This is what you're going to use to sign in to Mastering My Lab. You don't have the funds right now. That's okay. But this is what you will use to sign into Pearson My Lab, okay? This is for your class. This is your class sign-in, okay? It's not for any other class. I've already got people in this class already signed in. So this is for your class sign-in. If you can't get signed in, call customer service or contact customer service, because I've got it set up. I know it works. I've already got people from this class signed in, okay? So it works. If you can't get signed in, there's probably a problem on your end, okay? There again, I want to emphasize there's a free 2-week trial period to get you through that time if you're waiting for funds, okay? If you're waiting for your loan, your grant, whatever to come through, go ahead and get signed up and get started, okay, on your stuff. And so that's all the information for that. And let's get back here to modules. Oh, let's look at assignments. These are going to be your assignments. You're going to have 4 exams. You're going to have lab module chapter 1, which we're going to do. So this is where you would come to upload them here. Okay, you would come to upload them here. You have your student contract. We're going to do a lab module on chemistry. We're going to do, this is where we're going to do Pearson, these 2 activities on Pearson. We have 4 practical exams. That's what we would do if we were doing a face-to-face lab. We have a practical exam on tissues, which is slides of tissues, a practical exam on skeletal system, a practical exam on muscular system, and a practical exam on nervous system. They're worth 50 points each, okay? Worth 50 points each. You will do them at home. It's going to be a learning experience. It's going to be a learning experience. It'll come right out of the textbook, the slides in the textbook. Obviously, there'll be nothing there to key you in, so you'll have to do the work to at least look them up, okay? Find out what they are and then turn them into me. So if you do the work, you're going to make a good score, all right? So that's a lot. I need to change that, say lab practical. We will do a lab module on the muscular system, usually on contraction, the interaction of actin and myosin, okay? And that will be on Pearson, and a lab module on the nervous system. So these are your assignments. There's your course evaluation. Obviously, all of these aren't open yet, but these are what you have to look forward to. So the lab is not overpowering. The lab's not overpowering. We will meet in a lab session each week to get you started on it. Okay, we'll meet in this lab session each week to get you started on it, and we will go from there. And so that's your assignments. This is where you will go to turn in whatever you've done. Where will you find whatever you need to do? There is your student contract, okay? There's your student contract. Here is, these are under modules. Here's the anatomical identification lab module, all right, that we're going to look at in a little bit. Let's look at the individual lab modules now. Each lab module, you only have chapter 1, but I can assure you we have them for all the chapters here. And just to let you know, this is being recorded. I should get it up in a couple of days. This is the lecture notes. These are Dr. Oler's notes. Dr. Oler is the head of anatomy and physiology on the South Campus, and she put these notes together, and they were intended for you. They were passed out at the time of the lecture. They were intended for you to fill in as she was lecturing to keep you involved in the lecture. Obviously, chapter 1's not very complex, okay? They get more complex as you go, but these are the notes for chapter 1. We also have some slides for chapter 1. These are the slides that accompany those notes. The notes and the slides are your #1 thing to study for the exams. Notes, slides, lectures. Notes, slides, lectures. Why the lectures? Lectures, I give hints what's going to be on the exam. Notes, slides, lectures. Notes, slides, lectures. This was my lecture, first lecture from this summer. It's pretty rough. First time I ever did a Zoom lecture, okay, and it's pretty rough. You can listen to it. I'll have the lecture for this up later for this, you know, a couple of days. I had to, #1, I have a YouTube channel, so I'll have the link and it'll take you right to the YouTube channel. It's for the computer nerd. But I have the lectures up for both classes. And like I say, I'll put a link there because here's the link for the lecture here. Oh yeah, excuse me. This one goes to back to Zoom. When I first had Zoom, okay, when I first got Zoom, you could store your lectures on Zoom. I have a subscription series for Zoom. That's why I'm able to do, instead of just 45-minute lectures, I'm able to do a couple hours, 3 hours, whatever lecture, up to 24 hours if I wanted to. Not that I don't want to do that. And so for the first 2, I put them up there, and then after 2 lectures, the storage ran out, and I didn't want to pay any extra money. That's when I got the YouTube channel. Okay, so further down here, this would be, see there it comes from the YouTube channel. Okay, so there's lecture 5 from the YouTube channel. So that's I will put the same type of links there, except that what it'll say is that it's the lecture from fall 2002. Okay. So of 2020. So you know it's a lecture from here. Okay. At this particular point, I wasn't putting the semesters I didn't know. These are the Pearson slides. Okay. If you need additional supplementation, here are Pearson slides, the Pearson slides that go with the Pearson chapter. We're actually going to use this part B for the lab session. Okay. We're going to use a part B for the lab session. So I've got this laid out for you for the entire semester. If everything goes well, it'll go smoothly. It rarely does. Okay. Sometimes I'm not able to get the exam up on the day that I say I'm going to get it up. So I have to put it up a little bit later. Okay. You know, say it was supposed to be up Wednesday. I put it up on Friday. So I have to change the dates for everything and notify you, you know, so things don't always go like you want them to, but we just do the best we can. So we're going to start on these PowerPoint lectures here. This is for chapter 1. These are not very complicated, let me assure you. Okay, and then we'll go to the anatomy and physiology. Then we'll go to the anatomy lecture. Anatomy and physiology is an introduction. Anatomy means to cut up, the study of structure. Structure on gross level, microscopic level, and atomic level and subatomic level. Okay. The big thing now is in your lifetime, you're going to use nanotechnology to perform medical procedures. And you're going to have nanotechnology drug delivery to deliver the drugs to the cancer. You will have identified the cancer based on its genetic makeup and deliver the medication to the cancer. Okay. You will do tissue growth, tissue repair. There's a lot of structures in the body that don't heal up. They heal by fibrosis, which means they're scarring. Heart's an example. Okay. Physiology, how things work at the molecular level. We study them both together. In medical school and some professional schools. My brother and I both went to medical school. I went to the University of Louisville. He went to the University of Tennessee. In my school, we had the traditional semester of anatomy, a semester of physiology, a semester of biochemistry. At his school at the time, they did system-wise. So they did the nervous system, they did anatomy, physiology, embryology, pathology. They do everything of that system and then go into another system. I'm not sure which one's better, okay? But in our course, since this is a survey course, okay, this is a survey course, you know, in 2 semesters, you're covering all of anatomy and physiology, okay? We're going to do the best we can to get through as much material as we can and that you can learn. Structure dictates function, okay? Structure dictates function, but function, just knowing the parts is not as important as knowing the parts and how they function. Anatomy and physiology 1 is primarily anatomy with some physiology. So we have physiology of muscular contraction, physiology of nervous action potential propagation, but primarily it's anatomy. The opposite is true in anatomy and physiology 2. Anatomy and physiology 2 is very little anatomy and a ton of physiology, okay? If you were to look at the lab modules in anatomy and physiology 2 for the class I've got on Wednesday, you would see triple the amount of lab modules, okay? You see triple the amount of lab modules because they're learning a lot of physiology, doing a lot of interactive labs. Hierarchy of life. We go from atoms, okay? And actually we go from subatomic particles, protons, neutrons, and electrons to make atoms, okay? So we've got a sodium atom and a chloride atom. They combine together to form a molecule, sodium chloride. Hydrogen and hydrogen atoms, oxygen atoms combine together to form water, okay? Molecules then combine to form organelles, okay? Organelles were probably the first subcellular structure that could exist on their own. Mitochondria, which you may or may not know about, which is the powerhouse of the cell, makes ATP, has its own DNA. Okay, so it probably may have existed on its own. We then go from organelles to cells, particular types of cells. Okay, smooth muscle cells. These muscle cells then combine together to form tissues. Okay, so we have cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, skeletal muscle. There's 3 types of muscle. Okay, then these tissues come together, different types of tissue, to form organs. Okay, this is the vascular system. So in the vascular system, we'd have endothelium, we'd have muscular tissue, we'd have other kinds of tissue in it. Okay, and then obviously at the organ level, then that combines to form an organism. Okay, so we start from atoms. Okay, or subatomic, or we start from protons, neutrons, electrons, or we start even further back before these weren't given a charge and they existed as something else. Okay, atoms, laws governing the interaction of atoms. This is what we'll look at chemistry. Okay, I know probably a lot of you haven't had any chemistry and cell biology, chapter 2 and chapter 3, since high school. So we spend quite a bit of time on chemistry, and I have you a fairly extensive lab module for the chemistry to get you so that you can understand it a little better. And so these atoms are made up of different particles, and we'll look at that when we talk about chemistry. Molecules, how our atoms come together. Okay. Organelles are the functional units made up of molecular units in the cell. This is the nucleus, mitochondria, the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Those are all organelles. We go to the cellular level. Cellular levels first exhibit living characteristics. They're functional structure units of life. You can have either a multi-cell organism or a single-cell organism. This is a single-cell organism. Okay. This is a multi-cell. This is one cell in a multi-cell organism. We go to the tissue levels where cells work together to perform the same function, cardiac muscle to move blood. Organ levels, different tissues organized, okay, in functional units. So now we have heart, okay, 2 or more tissue types, specific function. And then we get advanced. Think of these organ systems, they're not independent of each other. Okay, right now I've got a Gatorade and some Ritz crackers and some graham crackers over here, and I'm eating those and drinking that, and that's in my GI system. Okay, well, when that nutrients get broken down, they're going to be absorbed by the bloodstream. Well, the heart's got to move blood around. Okay, it's going to take it up to the liver, through a complex process, build molecules that you need. It's going to go out throughout the body. These are going to be broken down by the cells. The cells require oxygen, so we need to bring oxygen in from the lungs. Got to get rid of CO2. We take in things that need to be removed by way of the kidneys. So this is not just totally independent. These systems all interact, okay? All organ systems must work together. So that was the illustration of that. What's the difference between a dog and a rock? Okay. From the cellular level, there's certain characteristics. You maintain boundaries. In chapter 3, we'll talk about the plasma membrane. It keeps certain things out, lets certain things in certain proportions. Okay. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to maintain a cell. Okay, as it states, it has selective permeability, and we'll talk about that. Okay. It maintains an organized structure, movement, either within the cell or the organism, responsiveness, organisms sense change in environment and respond, digestion, got to break the molecules down, metabolism, build up you got to have chemical reactions to build up other things. When we ingest cow protein, we don't use the cow protein, but we break the protein down into amino acids. Cow amino acids and our amino acids are the same thing, so we utilize the amino acids, okay? But we don't utilize the cow protein. We don't utilize the fish protein, but we break it down into its components. And then excretion, get waste products out, excess water, whatever we need to do. And obviously, if we're going to propagate the species, we need to reproduce, and then growth at both the cellular and the organism level. cells can differentiate at some point. Single cell organisms probably differentiated and then work together, become multicellular organisms. And then you have to have a stable environment. Okay, you have to have a stable environment. Our temperature is regulated within a stable environment. Okay, we can, if you don't get this regulated, you can get illness. We regulate gases, regulate water, nutrients, body temperature, heart rate, respiratory rate. They are a bunch of mechanisms to regulate this. The first is negative feedback. Okay, negative feedback is a thermostat. If it gets too hot, the air conditioning comes on. If it gets too cold, the heater comes on. Gets too hot, we have a dual regulator or dual mechanism on our air conditioning. We can set the high temperature and the low temperature, and it will stay within that range of temperatures. We do that with our internal temperature. If we are too hot, our veins, our superficial veins, and our, say we're going outside, I'm playing golf, you're doing whatever you do, working in the yard, jogging, running, bicycling, whatever, playing tennis. If you get too hot, the veins dilate and the body tries to transfer heat from the veins off into the environment. The problem is if the environment's hotter than the body, it's not going to be able to transfer heat. That's why you have people die in the middle of the summer if they don't have any air conditioning in St. Louis and Chicago and places like that, because even though they got a fan, they're not able to transfer the heat. The opposite is true. If it gets too cold, the veins constrict and we maintain that internal temperature. So that's negative feedback. You're trying to get everything back to the center. We do that with our glucose level. If our glucose level gets too high, the pancreas secretes insulin, brings it down. If our glucose level gets too cold, too low, pancreas secretes glucagon and brings it back up. So we have, that's a negative feedback, trying to get it back to a set point, okay? Negative feedback, trying to get back to a set point. And this is what it looks like. You can go through the diagram. Positive feedback is just the opposite. Positive feedback and blood clotting, once the signal goes out, let's clot this blood, okay, or clot this hole in the small vessel, then we're going to go full forward until the clot is established, okay. Same thing with labor and oxytocin. Oxytocin is secreted by the posterior, or released by the posterior pituitary. I'll give you my hints on those later on to how I remember which is anterior and posterior. But once labor starts, oxytocin keeps being secreted until labor is completed. So that's positive feedback. You know, you got a mechanism, you keep secreting more, okay? Negative feedback, you're trying to get to a set point. Once you get to the set point, everything stops. And that's the end of chapter 1, okay? Wasn't very hard. Let's go back here to our modules and let's talk about the anatomical structures. And we'll have a chance to, so it's part B here, Pearson. All righty. This is the same thing on me today. Oh. Part B here. Anatomical terms. The standard anatomical position. You know, you think of how we stand up with our arms at our sides, but that's not the standard anatomical position. The body is erect, feet are slightly apart, palms facing forward with thumbs pointing away from the body. All right, that happens to be the first question on your anatomical worksheet. Okay, what's the standard anatomical position? Definition: superior or cranial is up towards the top. Inferior or caudal is towards the bottom. Anterior or ventral is towards the front. Posterior or dorsal is towards the back. Medial is towards the middle, towards the midline. Lateral is away from the midline. Intermediate, I guess it could be intermediate between the lateral border and the medial border. That's not a term I use very much in my medical career. Proximal and distal, people get confused here. Think about the attachment of the shoulder, okay? Think about the attachment of the shoulder. Closer to the attachment is proximal, further away from the attachment is distal. The antecubital fossa, where the veins are, where they usually draw your blood, is proximal to the wrist. The wrist is further down on the arm. The wrist is distal to the antecubital fossa, okay? So proximal and distal. Superior, okay? Superficial and deep is easy for you. Why do you need to know this? You call in, you're on call for the ER, and they say, oh, I got a cut on the side of the arm. What does that tell you? They don't tell you anything, okay? I got a cut on the side of the arm. Well, if you got a cut on the medial side at the antecubital fossa, the ulnar nerve runs, the ulnar nerve's in that area because when you hit your funny bone, okay? That's where that's what you're hitting is the ulnar nerve, all right? Whereas if you're got the lateral side of the antecubital fossa, there's a whole bunch of muscle there, okay? But it's not so bad. So you got to be able to describe stuff, not only to your colleagues, okay? But if somebody's trying to describe something to you, they need to be very specific, okay? Axial is head, neck, and trunk. We'll look at the axial skeleton in one of the labs, and we'll look at the appendicular skeleton in one of the labs. That's the limbs, okay? These are regions of the body. I just want you to go over them. Most of these you already know, the groin, okay? Those types of things. This is back here is the popliteal fossa. You may not know that area, but these are just terms you ought to look over, okay? Body planes is very important. There's a sagittal plane, a frontal plane, and a transverse plane. Sagittal plane divides halves, okay? If it's a perfect, if it's mid-plane, right half from left half. Right half from left half. Frontal plane divides front from back. Anterior portion from the posterior portion. Transverse plane is just a cut and transversely, and they are such things as oblique planes, okay? We see these all the time in CT scans and MRIs that are recreated, okay? Sagittal plane divides body vertically into right and left halves. Mid-sagittal is a median plane, so it's not quite on the center, okay? And perisagittal is off-center. Mid-sagittal is cut on the midline, and perisagittal is cut off-center. Frontal plane divides body vertically in anterior-posterior parts. Transverse plane divides body horizontally, 90% to the vertical plane. And so this is a sagittal plane here. This is what an MRI looks like. It's a sagittal plane. This is a frontal plane, okay? This is a frontal plane here. This is what an MRI looks with a frontal plane. This is a transverse plane. This is what a MRI or CT scan looks as a transverse plane. Notice these are usually the cuts you get, okay? These are recreated. These are recreated from computer-generated information. So these are recreated structures, okay? Recreated structures based on the information that you got from these cuts. So we had to wait on the computer technology to be able to do CT scans and MRIs if we wanted to get pictures like this. When I was in college, we were learning about MRIs, and MRIs were initially called nuclear magnetic resonance imaging, okay? Because it has something to do with the spin of the hydrogen atom, okay? And they dropped the name nuclear, okay, so that people wouldn't associate with radiation, okay? So now it's just called MRI. But that was a research technique when I was in school back in the day, okay? So these are a sagittal plane, sagittal cut, recreated. Frontal plane, frontal cut. These are great, okay, for looking at specific structures. And transverse plane, transverse cut. Body cavities, we have dorsal cavities, dorsal towards the posterior, okay. Remember the dorsal fin in the fish, okay, towards the posterior, and ventral body cavities. The dorsal body cavities are the cranial cavity and the vertebral cavity, cranial cavity and the vertebral cavity for the spinal cord. These are the ventral cavities. This is the mediastinum up here. These are the pleural cavities and the pericardial cavities. This is the abdominal pelvic cavity, okay? There's a muscle right here that separates that cavity from that cavity. Muscle that separates that cavity from that cavity. If you had to guess which one of these cavities is most protected, well, this has the ribs surrounding it. This has the spinal cord in the back, but there's really no protection in the front. There is no protection in the front. So there are thoracic cavity and abdominal pelvic cavity, okay? Thoracic cavity has two pleural cavities, a mediastinum, which you have a superior mediastinum and the pericardial cavity, so that would be in the inferior mediastinum, okay? But the pericardial cavity is given a separate name. Usually in the superior mediastinum, that's where the great vessels are, the vena cava, the aorta, that's where they are, they live there, okay? Pericardial cavity. And then the abdominal cavity, we have abdominal cavity and the pelvic cavity. There's no differentiation, as there's no exact demarcation as what's the abdomen, what's the pelvis, okay? You can have defects. You can have a hiatal hernia where part of the stomach protrudes the weakness in the diaphragm. You remember, we've got the esophagus. When we swallow something, it has to go down the esophagus into the stomach well to get from the thoracic cavity to the abdominal cavity. It has to go through the diaphragm. Remember the diaphragm. That might be an answer to a question, okay? In the ventral body cavities, we have coverings in the dorsal body cavities, but they're entirely different. In the ventral body cavities, we usually have two coverings. We have a parietal covering that lines the surface. So if we had parietal pleura, that would line the inside of the thoracic cage, okay, inside of the pleural cavity where the lungs are. And we have a visceral pleura, which sets right and is actually part of the outermost layer of the lungs. Same thing with the heart. We have a parietal pericardium and a visceral pericardium. So we're going to see these terms used over and over again. So parietal refers to body and visceral refers to viscus, which is organ, okay? So the visceral, whatever serosa, whether it be pericardium, pleura, whatever it is, covers the internal organ, and the parietal lines the body cavity. Name for specific cavities: pericardium in the heart, pleura for the lungs, peritoneum for the abdominal pelvic cavity. And you can see here now, this is the parietal, okay, lines the cavity here, okay, where the heart is. Remember, you got lungs on each side here. And then we have the visceral pericardium inside here, and then we have a pericardial space. And normally there's fluid in that space, okay? If you have an ischemic injury to the heart, every time the heart beats, you have a little bit of blood coming into this cavity, and eventually you can get enough blood in that cavity that the pressure inside the cavity, because this pericardium, especially the parietal pericardium, is very thick and very tough. So there's not a whole lot of give to it. So eventually the pressure in the cavity is greater than the pressure in the heart, and so it does a heart tamponade, okay? It decreases the pressure in the heart, which, as you can imagine, is not good, okay? But there's normally fluid in there, okay? You can do a pericardial tap to relieve the pressure in there if there's a lot of fluid or a lot of blood, and then take them up to the OR, okay? And put a drain in, repair the hole and put a drain in, or just put a drain in if it's due to some other kind of infection or something, okay? In pleurisy, okay, these layers for the lungs can stick together, or in peritonitis, layers can stick together. we have quadrants in the abdominal pelvic cavity. This is the one I'm most familiar with. Right upper quadrant, left upper quadrant, right lower quadrant, left lower quadrant. Why do you need to know those? Okay. Well, number one, it localizes organs and it helps with diagnoses. Okay. If you have somebody that comes in with right upper quadrant pain, especially after eating a fatty meal, they could have gallbladder problems. If you have somebody that comes in with tenderness in the right lower quadrant, especially 2/3 of the way from the umbilicus to the anterior sphenic spine, and they're tender right there over that point, that's the appendix right there. They could have appendicitis. You have somebody with pain or discomfort up in this area, they could have stomach bloating, they could have an ulcer, they could have something wrong with the transverse colon. And if you have problems down in this area, more than likely you have diverticulitis or diverticulosis. So that is the 4 quadrants that I'm used to, okay? You can go further into naming the quadrants, okay? And I don't use this system. Obviously, the umbilical area, the inguinal areas, I know, but the traditional system is the 4 quadrant system. I use that as a general surgery resident. But this is just a system, and you take your test online. And if you had a question from that, but I don't think you won't have a question from that. I don't test on that, but they can divide that up even further. Other body cavities are the oral cavity, digestive cavity, nasal cavity, orbital cavity, miliary cavity, and synovial cavity. So that is the anatomical part of the lecture. Okay, so let's go back to modules. All right, let's look at your lab. Okay, here's your lab. Okay, you're going to have these questions that you're going to answer. Once you answer them, you're going to save the file. Okay, you're going to save it last name, first name, underscore lab 1 anatomy. Okay, and here's an example. I'm a Big Bang fan, so one of the people in computer science gave us this way to label things, and I use this throughout. Okay, it'll be your last name, your first name, underscore, and whatever the name of the assignment is. And I always give the name of the assignment. And you're going to save that file, okay? And then you're going to upload it under assignments. So describe complete standard human anatomical position. Well, that was the first little paragraph we went over, okay? Do all mammals have the same anatomical position? The veterinarian would say no, because a dog is on all fours. We are up on twos. Okay, we're up on twos. So the answer to that would be no. Describe a plane. Well, we talked about a plane. We talked about the sagittal plane, the frontal plane, and the transverse plane. So that should be easy. Everybody in this class has probably had an X-ray. Well, if you have an X-ray, they walk you up, and they have a plate there. They stand you up against the plate. And the X-ray cone is back behind you. And when they shoot the X-ray, then the rays go from posterior to anterior. They go from posterior to anterior. And you will find that when you order a chest X-ray, or you see an order for chest X-ray, they'll order chest X-ray, PA, and lateral. PA is posterior to anterior, posterior to anterior. And the lateral just means one of the sides is going to be against the plate, and they're going to shoot from the other side. CT takes the standard of cuts. What plane do they use? Okay. Name the muscle that divides the ventral body cavity. I pointed it out to you. I talked about a hiatal hernia that goes through a weakness in it. Okay. So you already know what that is. And then here's a bunch of things. The thoracic, using these terms here, you're going to fill this in. The thoracic cavity is to the abdominal perineal cavity. Well, it's above it, but we don't say above. We say superior or caudal. Okay, we say superior or caudal. Well, it just so happens we have superior. The trachea is something to the vertebral column. Well, the trachea is in the front and the vertebral column's in the back, but we don't say that. But we do say anterior and posterior. The wrist is something to the hand. Well, is the wrist closer to the joint than the hand is? Yes. So it's proximal. So you're just going to fill these in. You got to that there? What serous membranes are found in the thoracic cavity? We just talked about that, okay? We talked about those pleural membranes and the pericardial membranes. What body cavity provides the least protection? I mentioned that to you, right? That should be easy, okay? And a person's diagnosed with appendicitis. What quadrant of the body would the appendix be located and where would the pain be referred to? And the pain would be referred to the skin in the quadrant where the body, where the appendix is located. And we looked at that. And that is your first assignment, okay? So I won't always do this with the labs, but we do this with the first lab, okay? With the first lab, we went through this information. We talked about the anatomical structures. Literally every question was answered in those slides or answered by me, okay? They were answered in those slides and they're answered by me.